What's up, everyone? I'm Tracy. I'm 15, only a child. Not sure where to start. Here it goes. My family has a medical history of some weird disease. My aunt and grandma died a short time after noticing a black spot on their legs. My entire family has been terrified of black spots after their passing, myself included. So I learned to respect the feelings of others from my parents. My mom and dad are like super polite and never say anything rude to people. For example, some random guy broke down on the side of the road and opened up his entire life to my parents. And they just stood there and listened to his blatantly pathetic story. And then my dad turned around and handed him $100 bill. My parents' goodwill to men mentality has helped my family build bonds with others. My parents also taught me to put others before myself and the difference between needs and wants. I want the newest iPhone, but I don't necessarily need it, whereas I need water but never want to drink it. Makes sense? So the best part of school life was hanging out with my friends. I remember being crazy in love with this one guy named Jeff. I couldn't get the beautiful creature off my mind. A smile to die for, OMG. He was so hot. Jeff always seemed to be doing something for somebody else. I admired him for that. The only thing bad he had going for him was his snooty girlfriend, Linda. I asked myself over and over, out of all of the girls in the world, why her? I mean, yeah, she was pretty, sort of, but she was far from perfect. She was actually really salty with everyone. I honestly felt like she was just using Jeff for his car. Shiny black Mustang. A true head-turner. Linda wanted to be seen in it. Nothing more or less. I wondered if Jeff really loved her for her. Or maybe he was just smitten by her superficial beauty. I never ended up telling Jeff about my feelings for him. There were times when he'd stroll by me in the hall and I'd have to restrain myself from swiveling my head around to look at him. I was never very good at expressing my true feelings for anyone, especially Miss Stevens, a large, stern-looking Greek woman. Stevens was a good mom to her sons, Sam and Luke, but she had a nasty habit of skimping on pay. I'd babysit for like 6 hours and only get paid for 5, sometimes even 4 measly hours. But my parents taught me to respect my elders, and so I never confronted Miss Stevens about shortchanging me. Anyway, on paydays, I'd just bite my tongue and walk home royally pissed. One evening, I'm Netflix and chillin' when I notice a marble-sized black spot on my left leg. Yikes! I must have blacked out or something because for a few long seconds, I couldn't think straight. I'm staring down at my leg, and in the back of my mind are my aunt and my grandma and the ugly black dots that symbolized their deaths. I continued to stare at the black thingy on my leg, and it appeared to be staring back at me with a mission. And then I began to wonder how it got there. No matter how hard I picked and poked at the thing, it wouldn't budge. And now I'm scared to death. The palms of my hands got all sweaty. I actually thought I was going to die. I switched on my laptop, heart pounding, and then I began to search Dr. Google for any and everything related to black dots. As I skimmed over headlines, several words jumped out at me. Lethal, death, disease. Unable to hold in my emotions any longer, I burst out into tears. I cried the whole day, believing in my heart that my life was going to end. I realized after a while that time is very important. So I stopped crying and made a conscious decision to take care of a few things. The very first thing I did was call my mom. I told my mom that I was bored and I was coming over to chill with the family. After getting to my parents' house, we jumped in my dad's Honda and hit the road. We went out to eat at our favorite restaurant, and I ordered my favorite chili dog with fries. No sooner than I started to eat, The ugly black dot began to plague my mind. I'm chewing, and then I start to regurgitate and can taste vomit inside my mouth. Nasty. I ended up having to excuse myself from the table. Last thing I wanted to do was to throw up all over my parents' priceless steak dinner. Vomiting incident aside, having dinner with my parents turned out really well, but my voice was still emotional, and I started to cry when I told my parents how much I loved and respected them. Smiling warmly, my mom reached across the table and dried my tears with her fingers. Determined to make the most of what little time I had left on Earth, I decided to pay Miss Stevens a little visit. After getting to her house, I just wanted to get it all out. And so I courageously explained to Mrs. Stevens that I wouldn't be around to babysit, and I wanted to get paid for the extra time I had put in over the past year. She gave me the dirtiest look, but ended up rudely slamming three $20 bills in my hand. Truth is, I had allowed Mrs. Stevens to take advantage of me for far too long. My bad. The next day, I just so happened to bump into Linda standing outside the library. She stood there and stared at me like I was stupid. Her unwelcoming gaze didn't faze me from what I was about to do next. I walked over to her, looked her square in the eyes, and calmly told her how much I hated her. And then I gave her a good old-fashioned lesson on morals and values and how to treat people. At the mention of Jeff's name, if looks could kill, I would have dropped dead then and there. My final words to Linda were, "Bye, Felicia." Oozing with sarcasm and waving goodbye, I walked away, feeling her gaze on me as I entered the library. I grabbed a couple of books inside the library, then headed home. As I'm walking out of the library, I see Linda and Jeff locked in an embrace. Deep down inside, I know Linda set the whole thing up. She saw me walk into the library, which means I had to walk out of the library. I marched right up to Linda and Jeff and blurted out my true feelings for him. I stood right in the center of the action and told Jeff how much I loved and wanted to be with him. I went a step further, too. I let Jeff know exactly how I felt about his superficial girlfriend. I then hauled off and punched Linda straight in the nose. Before Jeff could jump in and help his girlfriend, I wrapped my arms around him and kissed him straight on the lips. Little did I know, a bunch of people had gathered around, fully tuned in. To my surprise, everyone started clapping. That was probably one of the most embarrassing yet proud moments of my life. In that very moment, I felt free as a bird. More importantly, I learned a valuable lesson in the coming weeks. Days passed, and the closer I got to my doctor's appointment, the more confused and scared I felt. I was going to die, yet I was living the best days of my life. What I didn't expect was the closer I got to the doctor's appointment, the lighter the spot became. And not only did the doctor say I wasn't going to die, but that the spot would disappear completely. I was exhilarated to know that I was not going to die, and that was all I wanted right now, to just live. I don't know if Jeff will ever love me, or if Linda will ever forgive me, or if Miss Stevens will ever change her ways, but I don't care too much about it anymore. I cherish the here and now moments of my life and believe in living my life to the fullest. I'm still careful about not hurting others, but I definitely let others know when they hurt me.